So to succeed, our approach must correspond to their aspirations. Militarily, we should focus on training Afghan forces to defend their own villages. Politically, we should push to improve the quality of governance so that services are available and the rule of law established. And diplomatically, we should summon every ounce of leverage we have to spur security cooperation between Afghanistan and Pakistan so that the Taliban no longer have safe havens from which to attack our forces. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are important in their own right, but they have an impact as well on the overall relationship between the United States and Arab and Muslim worlds. When American troops fight in Muslim lands, there's always a risk that we will create more terrorists and other violent extremists than we defeat. And it's in our interest, therefore, to work closely with partners to emphasize economic issues and to leave as soon as our core security goals are achieved. The dangers radiating from the Middle East and the Gulf are such to occupy the next President Obama, but not consume all his attention. Just as an effective foreign policy cannot be exclusively unilateral, neither can it be unidimensional. As a leader in the global era, America's president must view the world through a wide lens, and one major trend with which he must cope is the global competition for resources. The emerging countries, led by China and India, have caused a spike in demand for oil, food, and other basic goods. And this has raised prices and tilted the global economic balance in favor of commodity-rich nations, making those who don't have petroleum increasingly dependent on those who do. And the result is a potentially historic shift in economic and political power. Instead of a bipolar world, as during the Cold War, or a unipolar world, as in the 1990s, we're headed towards a truly multipolar world in the 21st century. Now, this could be healthy. Diversity in world affairs is something that's useful, but an awful lot depends on how the leading powers work together. And I think that we need to figure out how to really operate in this new world in terms of the financial crisis, how we work together, what the various components of our partnership can be. And the question is, who will, in fact, provide the glue to keep the international system together? The skeleton of that system was assembled more than 6 decades ago, after World War II, and in the time since, its bones have become brittle and weak. I think for the women here, what it means is that it needs to take a little Fosamax. The problems it was created to solve have become less relevant, while other dangers have grown. And today, this international system is ill-equipped to deal with such tests as terrorism, nuclear proliferation, civil wars, climate change, and the disruptions to the global economy. And the problem that we have is that Europe is looking inward, and the global institutions have lost their authority, and the regional powers have pursued local agendas, and there's a new edition of an old rivalry between democratic and autocratic governments. So, for instance, leaders such as those in China and Russia and Iran and Venezuela increasingly challenge our belief in political openness and our emphasis on civil and human rights. And such objections have appealed to other leaders who may have won power through elections, but who are determined to retain their power through whatever means are necessary. So we need to figure out a way to have a flexible system that really responds to all of this rather than some ad hoc solutions. So the combination of hot wars, high prices, and hate could really lead to disaster. I think if we're to ensure against that, we're going to need leaders who are willing to look beyond what is just popular at home to what is necessary for the common good. And this may be a naive hope, but describes a real need, and it's why the next American president will have a lot of weight on his shoulders. Even in the crowded heavens of a multipolar world, a North Star is desirable, and if the United States does not again fill that role, I'm really at a loss as to who will. I do think we have to deal with the challenge, the backlash of globalization. It is something that does affect all of us, and I find that as we look at our economic situation here at home, there is no question that there is a growing gap between the rich and the poor. I think that it does affect different people in different ways. I think that the current financial crisis is something that has deep impact and shows what happens if a lot of thought is not given to the role of the government, what the government can provide the people, and how to deal with this credit crisis. Other countries are looking at us. There's no question about it. I've been asked about what the effect of the financial crisis is on America's capability and also on our reputation abroad. We need foreign help. As we know, some of the sovereign wealth funds are in fact funding some of the various issues in banks. So we can't just say that we're not going to worry about it. And believe me, there are some countries who are not so sad that we are in this particular position. But the United States has to operate internationally, and so we have to figure out how we deal with this. I think we do have the capability of doing this if we have a president that can look into the 21st century. It is absolutely essential. We have seen conventional wisdom proven wrong over and over again, and we've seen speculation outpace common sense over and over again. And the truth is that we have been able to deal with the savings and loan crisis and the Asian financial meltdown and the dot-com bubble and the Enron scandal and now the fiasco that's going on. And I think that while our regulators and some of our legislators tend to respond slowly at first and then with furious energy, the result is often a combination of measures that are either long overdue or poorly thought out. So here again, the burden of our next president will in fact be great. Although there are still almost 4 months between now and Inauguration Day, chances are good that restoring confidence in our economy will be our new leader's #1 goal. And I think a great deal will depend on the ability to find the right balance between micromanaging and not managing at all. And the truth is that we need to look at this whole situation through what we need now, how we find a president that can deal with this. I have to tell you, I think this is the most important election of my lifetime. I am 71 years old. My first vote was for John Kennedy in Chicago. I have been proud to vote every time, but I have to tell you, this is a really big one. And because these issues are so great, I think it requires us all to spend the intervening weeks now learning much more about our candidates and sorting out what the issues are, whether they are to do with the international economy or our position in the world or our domestic issues. So I'm delighted to be here and now very happy to answer whatever questions you have on whatever subject you have. Thanks.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a special forum featuring the Honorable Madeleine Albright, former Secretary of State of the United States. Now we would like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphones today, our City Club Assistant Director of Development, Marcella Brown, and Director of Community Relations, Missy Toms. First question, please.
Madam Secretary, welcome back to the City Club. My question is, what do you think is the current status of the Monroe Doctrine, and what does it mean in terms of Russia's involvement with Venezuela on joint military exercises?
Very interesting that you asked that, because one of the issues that is out there that is of great concern is Russia's activities in Georgia, which is how the issue has become germane again, because President Medvedev and Prime Minister, really President Putin, has talked about spheres of interest and spheres of influence.